Welcome and welcome back to my channel Boomzibi Beauty. If you are new to my channel, my name is Juliana. You are highly welcome to my channel. On this channel I do tutorials, I do swatches, I do haul, comparisons, I do videos, I do a lot. If you are interested in variety of contents, then this is the channel to be on. So please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos. And if you are an OG, I appreciate you. I thank you for tuning into this video. Okay, so in today's video, as the title says, is my eyeshadow palettes collection and declutter. I finally filmed this video. This is actually the second video I'll be filming. I first decluttered my Makeup Revolution palettes because I had a lot from them. I have not counted any of the palettes in these videos I've done, but I had a lot of Makeup Revolution palettes, so I had to do that video separately. There's no way I could have put it together in one video. So this is officially my second collection and declutter video. Even after filming this video, I still haven't counted how many palettes I had or how many palettes I decluttered. Just I didn't want to make myself sad or depressed. But one thing I have learned is I can't do that ever again. I cannot have that many palettes again. It took about 3 days to prepare for this video. I mean, initially I wanted to kind of like show you my collection according to brands, but at some point it was just getting so hectic that some are according to brands and some are not. But I just had to get this video out of the way so I can declutter the palette I wanted to declutter. And I think I'm going to be doing another declutter at some point before the end of the year, because I really want to cut down on a lot of my palettes. So I'm giving some of them a chance, you know, again, and that's why I've not decluttered them. So I'm going to see what happens in about 6 months, and if I still don't use them, then I'm going to let more of them go. Okay, without further dilly-dallying, let's get into the collection and declutter. Starting with the latest palette in my collection, and it is Still Pretty palette from September Rose, which I only just received today. Actually, it's a Valentine palette. So this is the inside of the palette. I have not used it, literally just received it today, but I will hopefully be doing a look with it. So this is Still Pretty palette from September Rose, and September Rose is a UK brand. It's a UK based brand. So while on their website picking the Still Pretty palette, I also got the Slush 2 palette. I already have Slush 1 and Brew palette from them, but this one I didn't have, so I decided to pick it up along with the Still Pretty palette. This is the inside of the palette. So it's an all matte palette compared to their Slush 1. This is Slush 2. Slush 1 has shimmers in it, but this one is just all matte. So since they are new, they're definitely staying in my collection. And this is their Brew palette, which is more or less like a neutral palette. And this is the inside of the Brew palette. This is possibly about a year old, so it's definitely staying in my collection. I do like the color story of this palette. Yeah. And then finally from September Rose Cosmetic is the Slush 1 palette. This is more or less like a rainbow palette, but I do like it. So compared to some that I'll be decluttering later, hopefully, but I am definitely keeping this one in my collection. So those are all the 4 palettes I've got from September Rose Cosmetics. Alright, going to the brands that I just have like 1 or 2 palettes from them. Well, the ones that are near me at the moment. So this is from Makeup Forever. I mean, I've had this palette for a while now, so I will be decluttering this one. I think it's time for it to go. I think my issue was, I mean, the reason why I didn't use the palette so much. I mean, it's been a long time now. I sort of mixed my palette, but this was like an all shimmer, satin kind of palette. There was no matte in it, so I didn't reach for it so much compared to nowadays where I would have paired this with another palette, but then not so much. But it's possibly at least 2 years old now, so it's got to go. And then also from Makeup Forever is this palette. I don't even know what to say. I did use this a lot. I like the matte in this palette, plus it's got a black as well, but it's quite old now, so this one is definitely going as well. And then moving on to Kat Von D, I've got 2 palettes from her as far as I can remember. So I've got the, I don't know what name this is, Crystallis eyeshadow palette, and this one is the metal palette. So let's see what the Crystallis palette looks like. So this is the inside of the Crystallis palette. Yeah, I can't even remember the last time I used this palette. I mean, I did use it when I had it, when it was fresh in my collection then, but not so much nowadays. I don't think I've even touched it in at least 6 months. I think I'll possibly keep this for now and maybe declutter it in my next one, but for now it's staying. And as for the metal palette, yeah, I definitely will be decluttering that. I mean, it's so big. I used to remember these shimmers. They were so nice and so buttery. Well, some of them anyway. But this is so outdated now that I wouldn't even know what to begin to do with it. I've got better palettes in my collection, so this is gotta go. Alright, moving on to Urban Decay. I do have some of my Urban Decay near me. There are some in somewhere else, but for now, let's just deal with this one in front of me. Starting with the electric palette, I used to love this palette at the time, but it must be at least 2 years old now. This is the inside of the electric palette. As you can see, it's very colorful and it used to be my jam in those days. I love this palette. I don't know how they'll perform now, but it's been... I've had it for such a long time that I'm not even sure I'm supposed to be putting this on my eyes anymore. But I literally have not opened this palette for at least a year now. I don't know. I think I'm not even sure it's easy to deport. I think I'm just going to get rid of it. There's no point holding on to it. It's got to go. Oh, and then the Moonstone palette. I used to love this palette. In fact, this palette was my first experience of shimmery shadows. Oh, I used to love this palette so much. But it's been such a long time. I've got more sparkly shadows now that, yeah, it's got to go. I'm decluttering this. The Naked palette. I do have Naked 3s, I think, somewhere else in my collection. It's because I kept this one in the same place. That's why I have them together. So let's start with Naked Honey. So this is the Naked Honey, pretty much neutral palette. It did show up on my eyes and I used to love it then, but I didn't like the little pan kind of situation. Yeah, but I did like it, so I am going to hang on to this for a bit. And then we've got the cherry the cherry Naked palette. Again, I love this one as well because of the burgundy kind of tones in this palette. I did love it, but I'm definitely going to declutter this one. I've got better palette of this color story, so this one is got to go. And finally, the Naked It palette. Again, this one I did love it as well, but I think I'll still hold on to this one for a bit until my next declutter. Remember this palette, the Distortion palette, with these shades on top of it. Once you use this one, this other ones, you can then use the ones at the top to kind of change the color. It's such an old palette now. I mean, Urban Decay used to be the highlight of my collection back in the days. Oh, and look at, they are still metallic, but I don't know, I just don't want to hang on to them for the sake of it, so I don't know. Nah, I'm decluttering it. Oh, and this palette, oh, I loved this palette at the time. In fact, I kept it in my car, and every time I was in a hurry and I left home in a hurry, I would apply this eyeshadow palette in the car just before work or wherever I'm going, because it was quite easy to use at the time. But I can't even remember the last time I touched it. I think I might just keep it just for the design. I can't imagine putting this on my eye at the moment. I'll just keep it for the design. And then the Full Spectrum palette. Oh my gosh, these palettes are, it's got to be at least 1.5 years old, if not 2 years. But oh, I did love it at the time, but I mean, it's so much outdated now. Yeah, it's got to go. I'm decluttering this one. Totally Cute palette from Too Faced. This is another one I loved back in the day. I love the fact that it was so simple that you could just use your hand to apply the shimmer or to do whatever. But I mean, look at the browns. Look at the darkest shade in the palette. It's a joke. Yeah, definitely decluttering this. I kept my Glam Shop palettes mostly in the same place as well, so they are kind of together, which is good. So let's go through that. I mean, I've done a ranking on this palette because I know I was going to be decluttering some and deporting some, so that ranking video will be out at some point when I get to editing it. But this is the Z Colorum palette, and I love this palette. The color story in this palette is beautiful, and the shimmers, oh, absolutely gorgeous, especially this yellow, these two shades. So I'm definitely keeping this one. I think I might need to speed this up, otherwise this video could be 3 hours long. So this is the Barbados palette. It's like a pastel palette. I think I might just keep it until after spring or something, just in case I need to use the pastel shades in this palette. So I'll keep it for a bit. This is the Remix palette, and I love this palette. I mean, you can see the shimmers in this palette are absolutely gorgeous. Oh, so beautiful. I think eventually, even if I do deport it, I'm going to take out the shades I like and get rid of the rest. I mean, I'm not so fussed about the mattes, but the shimmers in this palette, they are absolutely beautiful. So I do think I might deport the shades and throw away the rest. This is their Color Love palette, and it's just an ordinary palette, really. I mean, some shades in there are unique. I'll just hold on to this for a bit. I'm definitely keeping this one because it's all shimmers, sparkly shimmers, beautiful shimmers. Yeah, definitely still keeping this one. Their Love Glam palette. I think eventually I'm just going to depot all the shades I like, really, and kind of get rid of the ones that I won't need or won't use often, like something like this. But for now, I'm keeping this palette. La Paz Snow palette. I'm going to keep this one because I do like the color story of this one. It's beautiful. I like the matte, I like the shimmers, so definitely keeping this one. And these are their monochromatic palette, at least the one I have in front of me right now. So this is the Burgundy palette. Definitely keeping this one because I do love the color story. It's absolutely yummy. If you know me, you know I like the stones, so definitely keeping this one. Citronada palette, which is a mainly yellow lemon kind of palette. For this one, I am going to depot some of the shades I want, and I will be decluttering the rest of the shades. So I'll mostly be keeping all the shimmers, all the unique shimmers, like this one, and this one, and get rid of the rest. Paprika palette. Definitely a favorite, and it's not going anywhere. Look at that. That is my jam. I love all the shades in this palette. It's such a gorgeous palette. I did do a look with this palette on my channel, so it's definitely somewhere up on my channel. I love the palette, so it's not going anywhere. This is their Abstrari. Oh, don't let me butcher this. It's one of their palettes. And I sort of love at least 90% of the shades in this palette. Actually, for this one, especially the mattes. The mattes are so unique in my collection. They are not the kind of shades I have often, so I am deporting this, keeping at least 95% of the shades, and possibly maybe throwing this one away. That doesn't do anything for me, but yeah, deported this one. Clementica palette, mainly an orange tone palette. Again, with these, I am going to deport and keep some of the shades I like and get rid of whichever one I don't like. Zerlone palette. I do love this palette, so I don't think, even before opening, I know it's not going anywhere. This is the inside of the palette. It's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful palette. Honestly, look at that. So beautiful. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. I don't know. I'm not gonna butcher the name. I'll try and put the name on. I don't know what the English name of this palette is, but it's absolutely beautiful as well. Obviously, I don't like one or two shades in there, but the shades I do like, they are gorgeous. I'm going to try not to swatch everything, but this one I think I'm going to deport and keep some shades and get rid of the ones I don't like. And then their Glamlite palette. Again, this one I do love some of the shades, especially the formula that I do like, which is this one in the middle. In fact, these three, especially these two, they are beautiful formula. Honestly, they melt on the skin. These ones, I think I featured this in one of my videos, even though I couldn't kind of find the palette, but they literally melt on the skin when you swatch them, and they don't give you as much fallout as most of their shades. So I am going to keep this as it is. I won't deport it yet, but eventually I will deport and keep the shades I like and possibly get rid of the lighter green ones that won't show up on my skin tone. Alright, some random shadows in front of me. So this is from BH Cosmetics, the Bubblegum Sweet Shop palette. This isn't going anywhere. I'm definitely keeping this for a long time. Sweet Pinks by Juvia's Place. For these, I might just deport some of the shades and get rid of the ones I don't like. BH Cosmetics Batstone palettes, yes. Yeah, I am definitely keeping all of them. So keeping this. This is the Garnet palette from January. Again, I'm keeping this. Violets by Juvia's Place. Yeah, keeping this. The Berries. Keeping this for now. I think eventually when I do get rid of the Juvia's Place palette, I am going to deport. In fact, I've deported some of them already. I've gotten rid of a lot of them. Thrown away the shades I don't like and kept the ones I do like. Yeah, so eventually I will deport this. These pink tones, I don't have as single shades in my collection. So eventually I do think I will deport this and keep them as single shades. Then from Colored Rain, I've got this Chest Beauty palette, which is an old one. I think they've discontinued this now, but I used to love this palette so much. Honestly, I used to love this palette. It might be so old now that I don't even... I might deport 1 or 2 shades and then just get rid of it, because it's got to be at least 1.5 years old now in my collection. Yeah, so for now, I'm going to keep it anyway. Moving on to this BH Cosmetic palette, Daisy Marquise. I can't even remember how old this palette is, but yeah, I'm decluttering this one. I can't even manage to open it. Yeah, this is the inside of the palette. I am not even sure I use this at all, because the little pants put me off. Yeah, I'm definitely decluttering this. Somebody else could do with using this to the fullest. And this is my Naked 3 palette I was talking about earlier. So yeah, this one, it was I think it was my first Naked palette. I don't know what I was thinking then back in the days. I thought this would show up on me. I mean, some shades did show up on me, but yeah, it's definitely time for it to go. More Too Faced palettes. This is the Chocolate Gold. This one, for nostalgic reasons, I just can't manage to get rid of it. I think it's still, oh, it still smells so good. I think I'm still going to hang on to this. This was one of my first palette back in 2016, I want to say, because I've never done a declutter before. I have sold off some palettes, gotten rid of some palette, but not a major declutter. So this is definitely from 2016. But it doesn't look bad. I might just keep this for the sake of it, not to use it, but for nostalgic reasons, really. The Bon Bon palette. I had all of them. I'm pretty sure I've sold 1 or 2 of them about a year, 2 years ago. This is the Bon Bon palette. Yeah, getting rid of this one. It's time for this one to go. And then this, some of my Kaleidos palette. I think I only have 3 palettes from them. Kaleidos, this is like the set of 5 that they were selling at some point. I bought 3 of them. This is the Futurism 3. And this is the inside of the palette. I think for this one, I might just, if the shimmers are still shimmery, I might just deport the shade I want and get rid of the rest. And then the Futurism 2 Cyber Brown. So this one is mainly a neutral palette, but I used to love this red. I mean, I'm sure you can see the dip in that. I used to use this one a lot. This 2 especially. I did use a bit of the matte, but mostly these 2, you know, were the shades I was focusing on. But I think it's time for it to go. I've pretty much got something similar in some other palette. Yeah, this one's got to go. From Sigma, this is the Cor de Rosa. This is not going anywhere. I love the tones in this palette. I absolutely love this palette. So yeah, this one is not going anywhere. Untamed, again, this I'm definitely keeping. I've barely used this palette and I want to use it. So this one is staying. From Ace Beauté Slice of Paradise palettes. So this is one of my Ace Beauté palettes. I've had them for some time as well. It worked for me. The formula, I was fine with the formula. I have no complaints about the formula, but I've pretty much got better colorful palettes now, so I'm going to declutter this one. Well, let's look at some more Juvia's Place palettes. So this is the chocolate palette. I'm keeping this one. The tones in this ones are very rich. I'm definitely keeping this ones. You don't usually get as dark of a brown as this palette has, so it's not going anywhere. Nubian 3. I never 100% like this palette from the start. Yeah, this one has got to go. Saharan. I like this palette, but it's pretty much old now, so I'm definitely decluttering this one. Fumi's palette. I'm gonna keep it because I use it as a blush as well, so I'll just keep it for a little bit. Maybe my next declutter I might get rid of it. The mauves, keeping this one just for the shade in the center here. That shade is pretty much beautiful. It's like a duochrome shade. Yeah, so keeping this one. The Nubian palette, yeah, keeping this one too. The Tribe, I love this palette, so for now, keeping. The Warrior, I'm really not a neutral person, but I did like the shades in this. My keep for this round, I mean, don't be surprised, I might declutter that, you know, 2 hours after this video, but yeah, we'll see. This one, I am dismantling it. I want these shades. These ones at the top, I am definitely keeping. I used to love this palette. It was a staple. I love this palette. Yeah, I'm definitely deporting this top shade and getting rid of the rest. Some random ones from Colourpop. I don't know how long I've had this for, but yeah, I'm decluttering this one. Sepia palette from Glam Shop. I'm keeping this, not going anywhere. Desi and Katie palette from Dose of Colors. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this for a bit at least. ABH Prism palette. I'm decluttering. More Sweet Shop palette from BH Cosmetics. So this is the pistachio palette, which I have not even used at all. This was one of the latest one I bought because the first time I was buying the rest, they were out of stock. So I later went and got this one. Yeah, I've not used this at all. So definitely keeping this one. Cotton Candy, keeping this one too. I love this one. Orange Sherbet. Oh my, that is beautiful. Yeah, keeping this. Sugar Cone, which is the neutral one. Again, at the same time as I got the pistachio, I think I might have used this one once, but I'm keeping it. So some palette from Colourpop. This is the Frozen 2. And this is the inside of the palette. Yeah, decluttering this one. Honey palette. I don't know. I just don't know what I thought that I would ever be able to use a yellow palette, but I might still hang on to this for a bit. This one has been discontinued, Rendezvous palette, but I love the colors on this palette. I really love it. Even if I don't use it, I think I'm going to keep this one for a bit. Give It To Me Straight, decluttering that. Sweet Nothings, again, this has been discontinued. Getting rid of. Through My Eyes from Through My Eyes palette. I might just keep this one for the memories. Fortune palette, decluttering this. The designer collection, I have not touched this palette and I'm not getting rid of them. This and the second one that they came out with, yeah, this one is staying in my collection. Just for the sake of it, the fact that it's Disney. The Misunderstood palette, again, I've not used this one and it's not going anywhere. Zodiac palette, I think it's time for this one to go. I've got better color storage, really. So this is gonna go. Salvage palette from Colourpop. I love this palette when it came out. I really love the palette. I think she did a good job with this color story. Keep this for a bit. Roots palette from Unique Beauty. I am definitely keeping this. These two shades in the middle, they are like flakes in a palette. They are beautiful. Yeah, definitely keeping this one. Unicorn palette from Pastel Roses in UK. I have not given this so much of a chance. I have used it, but not enough. If at all I get rid of it, I think I'm going to depot the shades and keep the shades as singles. Bed palette from Odin's Eye. Yeah, that's definitely new in my collection and it's staying. Yeah, absolutely beautiful palette. This is possibly going to stay forever, or at least until I eat pans on this palette. She palette from Colourpop, that can go. Hint of Mate palette from She Glam. I did like this palette and it does show up and it surprises you really, but I don't know, I might keep this one for a bit. So Jaded from Colourpop. Yeah, I'll keep this one for a bit as well. At this point I'm not going to be able to declutter so much. This one, ABH Novena palette, is the first I have from the Novena collection and it's pretty much new. I got this during the Black Friday sales and I haven't used it yet. This palette is gorgeous, honestly, gorgeous. Yeah, that's staying. I haven't even used it yet, so, and I haven't even swatched it. That's the funny thing, but yeah, I love it and it's not going anywhere. Glamlite palette, yeah, I'm keeping this. If I ever declutter any of Glamlite's palette, I'm going to depot them rather than throwing the palette away. I'm going to depot the shades I love and get rid of the rest. I love this palette. I did use it a lot as well. Their shimmers are just so beautiful. I mean, I wouldn't get any of their new palette now because right now they're just repeating themselves. But the old palettes, they are beautiful. I mean, look at that. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so this one is staying. Avocado palette from BH Cosmetics. Yeah, staying. In fact, most of my BH Cosmetics palette are not going anywhere, but this is the avocado palette. You see the reflection inside, you can't really see it properly, but yeah, it is a beautiful palette. So staying. Paint Light palette from Glamlite. I am going to be depoting this. In fact, I'm already halfway there. I've already removed the palette just so I can depot the shades I want. Yeah, so I am depoting the shades I love in this one. Strawberry palette from Unheartedly Cosmetics, at least that's what they are called nowadays. Have a look on my channel using this palette and I love it, so this is not going anywhere. I love the tones in this palette, definitely keeping this one. BH Cosmetics Summer in St. Tropez, keeping this one. Take Me to Ibiza palette. This I've had for a long time. This is one of the first BH Cosmetic palette I used, and look at it, it's the days of the small pans, but yeah, it's gotta go. The pastel palette from Beauty Bay, I'm definitely keeping this one. I have not even used it at all so I'm keeping this one at least until spring. Okay, random palettes now. Juvia's Place, the Bronze Rustic palette. This is like a mixed palette. It can be used as blush and it can be used as eyeshadow. I'm definitely keeping this one. I love the tones. This little bat stone palette from Colourpop is the Scorpio, which is my star sign. I only bought it for that reason really, and the fact that I do love the tones of a color burgundy, wineish kind of shade, so I am definitely keeping this one. From Revolution Beauty, because I do love some of their color stories sometimes, as you can see, it's burgundy, wineish color, but I'm going to declutter this one. From Nabla, Dreamy 2 palette, I'm keeping. This is pretty much new from Colourpop Limoncello palette. So I've not even used it, so I'm keeping this one. From Beauty Bay, the Age of Opulence palette, yeah, keeping. Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay, absolutely keeping this forever. From Lime Crime, Venus palette, yeah, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna give it another chance. I'm keeping this one. Heart palette from Odeon Cosmetics, yeah, keeping this one. Alva 2 palette, keeping this one as well. Pretty much new in my collection. BH Cosmetic Smitten palette, not going anywhere. Saga of Freya palette from Odeon Cosmetics, again not going anywhere. Profusion Cosmetics Rubies, I think it's time to let this one go. More palette from Ace Beauty. So this is the Oceanic palette. I am never going to declutter this one. Same thing goes for the Flare palette. Never going to declutter this one. That's the side of that, so keeping those. Palettes from Huda Beauty. I again have not had a chance to use this one. So these are the neon ones. So the green neon and the pink neon. I'm going to keep it until at least I've used them. Two of my Beauty Bay Disney collaborations. So this is the Dumbo palette. I'm keeping this. Again, this is the Jungle Book. Not going anywhere. More random palettes. So this is the Sugar Trip Squad palette from Nyx. I've had it for a bit now. Yeah, letting this one go. Supernova from BH Cosmetics. This is gotta go. Oden Zion Judy. Yeah, this ain't going anywhere. Random Revolution palette. This was the collaboration with Patricia Bright. She's a UK influencer. And this is the inside of the palette, which I did use. I mean, look, I use this palette to the core, especially the shimmers in this row. But I think I've outgrown this one now, so it's got to go. Okay, up next, my Natasha Denona palette. None of this is going anywhere. And some of them, when I open them, you might not recognize them, and it's because I've moved my shades around. But this is my new bronze palette, and this is what it looks like now. I have rearranged mine. I've got 2 videos on my channel showing how I rearrange all those palettes. Glam palette, Love palette, Sunrise palette, Zendo palette, my Trichrome palette. I did do a look on this. I did a palette mashup video using 2 of our palettes and 1 of Mcgrath. Oh yeah, I've used this on my channel. Lila palette, my new Safari palette, new Metropolis palette, which is now my neutral palette, Sunset palette, Gold palette, and my Sako Loco palette. Just so you know, this is my favorite palette from Natasha. I absolutely love this palette. So beautiful. And then a smaller palette. This is the Cranberry palette, Joya palette, Mini Zendo palette, which I haven't used yet, and the Mini Gold palette. Alright, moving on to some of my busier palettes. This is the Ming Sente Etendu, which is more or less a neutral palette. So this is what that looks like. This is the Warm Edit palette, quite delicate. The first time I got it, it actually came smudged. The second time, partially smudged. I just decided to keep it, and I'm not decluttering any of my Vizia palette. The Dark Edit palette, Spritz palette, Soleil La Splage. These, I have moved some of the shades around. I think there used to be a green in here, so again I've rearranged it. That's something I do a lot with my Vizia palette. You will never see any of my Vizia palette intact. They've all been moved around. But this is the Soleil, whatever the name is called. And then these are my little palette from them. So the green palette, again, like I said, these have been moved around. So this is the green one. This one is intact. Petite Lilas Petite Flow. So this is intact, and this is the blue one. I've moved that around. This is my Neutral Milieu palette, which obviously that's not what's inside anymore, but this was my Neutral Milieu palette. So these are the ones I've created myself. So I put all these shades together from various of my Vizia palettes. Another one, this would have been the Bright Editorial Mattes, but this is what's inside at the moment. This would have been my Cool Mattes too, but this is the current color story I've got inside this one. And this would have been my Dark Mattes, so that's what I have inside. Moving on to the bigger ones. This is my Grande Pro Volume 3, but again, it's something else inside. So the colors have been mixed around, but this is what I have in the palette at the moment. And my Grand Pro 2, which has got some shades missing. I have like an extra Vizia palette, like an empty one. So sometimes some of these palettes will be empty, but this would have been my Grand Pro 2 palette. Okay, Random Burger palette from Glamlite. Again, keeping this one. If I do get rid, I'll be the bottom. From Colourpop Whatever palette. Hanging on to this for a little bit more. Beauty Bay Fairy palette. Beauty Bay Bright palette. And this is my new Jade palette. This is the collaboration they had with Jade. So still keeping this one. Okay, another random one. This is from Revolution Beauty. This palette I didn't get for the shades of the eyeshadow. I got for the blush. This is absolutely beautiful blush. I wish I could find a way to kind of cut it up and still have a cover, but I bought it for the blush. They are beautiful, especially for dark skin tone. Born to Run palette from Urban Decay. Keeping this. New Romantic palette, which is the Valentine palette that Beauty Bay had last year compared to the one that they had this year. Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful, so definitely keeping this one. Sample Beauty, the Painter's palette. And this is the inside of the palette, so definitely keeping this one. Jamrock palette, yeah, staying in my collection. Jamrock is from Pimby, by the way. More from on Athlete Cosmetics Fairy Frolic palette. Don't Be Jelly, Poison Apple palette, the Not Normal palette, Bonnie palette, and the Capricorn palette. Some of the Infinity palette from Plain Makeup by Yolando. All these are new and they are not going anywhere. So this is the Expression, Pretty palette, Unexpected. I've got a video swatching a lot of these palettes on my channel. This is the Yo-Yo palette, Manda palette, and Royalty. Burning palette from Pimby. And this is the oldest palette from Colourpop actually. The Saucy palette, a collaboration with Varashi. Yeah, very, very old. I think it's definitely one of their palettes. Yeah, I'm decluttering this one. This is one of my oldest palette from Urban Decay, and I am never decluttering this. This was the palette I was wearing in my last personal picture with my dad. I mean, obviously after then I've had pictures taken with him, but I took with other people. But the last one that it was just me and him, this was the palette I was wearing. I love this palette back in those days because you could literally do a look with just your fingers without a brush. I mean, you can see I've got like dips in a lot of them. So I'm never ever decluttering this palette because it has so much meaning to me. I'm going to keep it forever. I mean, I can't even remember what the name of the palette is. But yeah, from Urban Decay, one of my oldest. Even the mirror is broken. I've had to sellotape it back down. But yeah, never getting rid of this one. Cherry on top palette from BH Cosmetics. One of my oldest palette from BH Cosmetics, Glam Reflection. And look at it, I had a pan in there. It was one of my favorite back then. Yeah, getting rid of this. While two palette from Juvia's Place, definitely keeping this one. Sylvia Garnin palette from BH Cosmetics. Might keep this one for a little bit more. Some of my Nomad Cosmetic palettes. So this is their, I believe it's something 54, Studio 54 palette. This is pretty new. I got it during Black Friday. Staying. This is new as well. This is their Haunted, is it Haunted Europe or something? Yeah, Haunted Europe. Yeah, so pretty much new in my collection. Marrakesh, Cartagena, American Packs, Tokyo palette, and the Berlin Underground palette. From P. Louis, All I Say Is Science palette. Yeah, this was from Black Friday and I've not had a chance to use it yet, so staying. Julina palette from Little Cosmetics. Annette's palette from Odin High. So, not going anywhere. From OPV Beauty, a UK brand, the Bloom palette. Again, this was a Black Friday purchase and I've not had a chance to use this one yet. From Linda Herbert, the Metallic Mystery palette. Huda Beauty Smoke Obsessions. In fact, one of the shades is falling off. Yeah, I'm gonna declutter this. I've had this one for a long time. They used to be my daily palette then. Mauve Obsessions. Yeah, this is gonna go as well. Another Beauty Bay Disney collaboration, Alice in Wonderland palette. A BH Cosmetic palette. I can't say what the name is out loud, but you know what palette it is. From Lorella, it's Winter Wishes. Under the Mr. 2, Wooden High Cosmetic, Alva 2 palette, Beauty Bay Sunset Horizons palette. From Colourpop, Powerpuff Girls, so pretty much new in my collection. And this is the inside of the palette. She Glam Splash Bash palette. Yeah, still keeping this. From P. Louis, the Watch the Queen Conquer palette. I've got a video of this on my channel. It's a two-sided palette, and this is the other side. Some of my palettes from A Unique Beauty. This is the Tribes palette, Girls Trip, Fashionista, Bubble Time, Japan Volume 1 palette, Japan Volume 3 palette, Friday Night Life. Some old palettes from Beauty Bay, Bright Matte, Fairy Shimmer. I'm getting rid of the Fairy Shimmer. From P. Louis, Stack 'em Up palette. This is the COOO palette. BH Cosmetics Trendy in Tokyo. BH Blueberry palette. Is Boutte Quintessential palette. OPV Yemoja palette. I think it's probably time to get rid of this one. I'll hold on to it just for this time around. OPV Tropical Dreams palette, and this is why I'm not buying the new HBT palette, because it's got some of the tones are in that palette, plus this one has got variety as well, so I do like this one. Yeah, and I don't think I'm gonna buy the HBT one. Glamlite Cake palette, not going anywhere. More Infinity palette. So this is Capture, Mixture, Basic, Faith, and Upwards. And this is another one of E-Unique's palette. So this is Pamper Me. From Viziat, the Sultry Muse palette. And another one of my beauty palettes. So this is the empty palette. So this was bought empty. There was no shadows when I bought it. So this is one I use to kind of move the shadows around. From Makeup by Tammy, this is the Chasing Butterflies palette. And from Sydney Grace, Enduring Love palette. From Makeup Revolution, this is the Amethyst palette, and I think it's supposed to be a dupe for Rare Beauty palette, I think. But this is the Amethyst palette from Makeup Revolution. With Love Cosmetics in UK, this is the Natural One palette, the Blue One palette. She Glam, the Cactus Cool palette. L'Oreal Cosmetics Las Commendres palette. From Clarity, this is the Cobra palette. She Glam again, Spring It On. And from Be Perfect Cosmetics, this is the Dream Big palette. This is the inside of the Dream Big palette. Such a beautiful palette. I think I've used the bar 3 times, so this is staying definitely. Colourpop Cosmetics Wine palette, but during Black Friday, so I haven't used this palette yet. Nomad Orient Express, Luna Beauty, the Moonspell palette. From OPV Beauty in UK, it is the Ocean palette, and I'm going to declutter this. Juvia's Place Nubian 2 palette, again I'm decluttering this. Luna Beauty, the Strawberry Dream palette. BH Cosmetics Desert Oasis palette, I'm going to keep this. From P. Louis, this is the Wordly palette. And this is the inside. Such a gorgeous palette. In fact, I haven't used this palette yet. I'm contemplating deporting it before using it, but we'll have to see. But this is the Worldly palette. Glamlite Cake palette. Definitely keeping this forever. And from Urban Decay, this is the Looking Glass palette. This was such a novice kind of. I really wanted this by all means then, but I think I'm going to declutter this palette. P. Louise Stack Them Up Swinging Tones palette. Golden Eye Cosmetics Chapter 2 with Golden Courage. Another one of the Saga of Freya palette. Luna Beauty Life's a Drag palette. Clarity Cosmetics First palette. I'm decluttering this. Stila After Hours palette. Keeping this. And then from Certify Eye, which is now a non-existent makeup company, this was their Destiny palette. I'm just going to keep it for history reasons, really. Affinity 2, such a gorgeous and beautiful color story. Tropical Wonders palette. BH Cosmetics Modern Renaissance palette, one of my oldest palettes, so getting rid of this. Colourpop Chasing Rainbows, very old palette, again getting rid of this. This is the Beauty Bay collaboration with Nikki Tutorials, and this is the inside of the palette, so it's an all pigment palette. Yeah, keeping this. Morphe Artistry palette. I'm gonna get rid of this. I've got more colorful palettes that I prefer to use. My old Jaclyn Hill palette, I use this palette to the core, to everything. I mean, look at it, it's disgusting. The only reason I haven't thrown it away is because I wanted to feature it in this video, but it's absolutely disgusting. I use this palette so much. Yeah, it's gotta go. From Colourpop Good as Gold palette, yeah, I'm getting rid of this. A Milani palette, I don't know what the name is. I'm gonna give these one more chance. From Uoma Beauty, Coming to America, Queen to Be palette. Black Magic palette. Black Magic Carnival palette. Beauty Bay Utopia palette. I haven't had a chance to use this one, but it's staying. Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, staying for now. The only palette I have from Melt Cosmetics, Smoke Sessions palette. Too Faced Peach palette. I think I'm gonna get rid of this one. BH Cosmetics Diamond palette. So this is the one that came out in April. I love this palette. This glitter, absolutely beautiful and lovely. So keeping this one. Colourpop Label of the Bowl, keeping that. Sample Beauty, the Cult palette. BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. I am gonna declutter this. Plain Makeup by Yolando Protonic Pinks. Keeping that. Glamlite Taco palette. BH Cosmetics Luna palette. Luna New Year palette. Viziat Bijou palette. Again, I have moved my shades around, so this is not how the shadows came from Viziat. I have changed the colors and moved them around with my quads, some of my quads. So this is the Bijou palette. P. Louis Stack Them Up Turkish Cheap palette. So this is the blue purple one. Wooden Zion Nuns palette. This is from another company that is no more, the Blush Tribe. So from them, this is their Neon Dreams palette, which isn't really very good, but because the company is no longer, I am gonna keep this. Their Layla One palette, which is more or less a rainbow palette, but I'm keeping this for now. Layla 2 palette, which I absolutely love this color story. I think I might depot some of the shades in this one. And then from Give Me Glow, this is their Christmas Morning palette. I love this palette. Absolutely beautiful palette. I think if this ever expires and they still have it in stock, I would definitely replace this palette. Yeah, this Christmas Morning palette from Give Me Glow. PH Cosmetic and Jackie I Know collaboration. I love this palette. If it expires, I'll bring out my backup. Morphe, very old palette. As you can see, I have deported some of the shades, so decluttering this one. PH Cosmetic Aurora Light palette. This is a very old one, decluttering. Profusion Cosmetics Wanderlust palette, decluttering. P. Louis Secret Sinner palette. An absolutely beautiful palette. Staying. More Profusion palette. This is their Violet palette. Got to go. Pro Pigment palette, giving this away as well, and their Sienna palette, and that's their Sienna palette. From OPV, the Spotlight palette. This is such a beautiful palette. I think I'm gonna hang on to it for a little bit more. Oh my days. Urban Decay Vibe palette. Oof, I used the heck out of this palette. Yeah, it's about time to let it go. Colourpop Midnight Masquerade palette. Again, another Disney one. I have used this one actually a little bit, but I'm gonna keep it. Juvia's Place Saran 2 palette. This is actually my second one. The first one I used it so much that I had pans in them and it was all messed up. So this is a replacement. Keeping this. This is one of my favorite palettes from Juvia's Place. Warrior 2 palette, I will keep this for the blacks and the unusual tones. And from Morphe, this has got to go. It actually smells. Stinks of chemicals. Yeah, definitely going. Another Morphe palette. This is the 35 View palette. But again, this is a very old palette. The time I still used to use Morphe palettes. So this is got to go. Okay, going to really speed this up now. Proceed with Caution from Colourpop. I think I have moved the shades around, I can't remember, but yeah, getting rid of this. Hello Kitty Cocoa Cutie. Blue Moon palette. Fading to Hue. Faded. High Tide palette. Cabana Club. Lush. Baby Girl Peach. Again, I think I moved this around, but I can't remember. I think I might have remade the palette in the way I want, but I can't remember. But this is staying for a bit. Night Owl Star Wars Mandalorian palette. Means to Be and Going Coconuts. Okay, more randoms from Nomad Cosmetics. Home for the Holidays palette. From Colored Rain, oh my days, Queen of Hearts palette. Oh, I used this palette so much. I really used it. It's about time to let it go, so I'm decluttering this. From Sosu Azure Allure palette. PH Cosmetics Venom palette. Scorpion Sting. Do Not Disturb. Optimistic AF. From Lorella, this is the Night Thinker palette. That's the color story. Spider Queen palette. Desert Skies palette. And Scandal. The only palette I have from Violet Verse. This is the font size fruit sorbet. More from Unique. This is Me, Myself and I. Playing the Makeup by Yolando, Mixing Moves. Sugar Pill Font Size 2. Shroud Cosmetic Freaking Bar Palette. VH Cosmetics Sapphire Palette. We're gonna really speed this up now. So this is Glamlite Street Taco Palette. Colourpop Poppy Palette. Colourpop Baroque Palette. VH Cosmetics Mix Dance Palette. VH Cosmetics Nautilus Palette. List Palette. Colourpop Rumo as a palette. More Infinity Palette. This is Friends Exchange. And then another random Vizia's palette. And before my battery runs out again, I am just going to quickly show you my Mcgrath collection. This is the, I can't see the name without the box. This is one of the 3 quads she released. I'll put the name on the screen. Another one, and this is my favorite of the 3 she first released. I think this one is called Nocturnal Nirvana, I think. Definitely my favorite. And this is one of the second lots she released. A 6-pound palette. Out of all of the 6-pound palette, this is the only one I have not deported. I have deported all of them and I have that video on my channel. So this is the only surviving 6-pound palette of my Mcgrath collection. I have a ranking before I deported, so I have a ranking of all the 6-pound palettes and I have a video of the deporting. This is the Mega Celestial Odyssey palette, which I've used about twice so far. And then we have the Mothership. So this is Mothership 3, my favorite Mcgrath palette. Mothership 7, my least favorite. Mothership 9, the latest one. Mothership 6, Mothership 8, Mothership 2, Mothership 5, bronze palette, one of my favorites as well. Mothership 4, the Star Wars collab, and this is an original one, a favorite as well. And then lastly, Mothership 1, the Cool Tone palette. Another one from Chic Glam, lots of lava palette. And this is the inside. From Revolution, Curses and X's. And this is the inside. Chilled palette. Love Spells. And their collab with Tammy. The Tropical Remix palette. From Urban Decay, the Games of Thrones palette. I will never be deporting this palette at all. Yeah, never deporting this Game of Thrones palette. Another of the quad from Mcgrath. This is one of the ones from the second round as well. From Colourpop, the Cherry palette. From BH Cosmetics is my favorite palette. This is a very old palette, so decluttering this. And the second pattern collaboration. I think this is the first part actually. Yeah, this is the one with the blush and the eyeshadow palette mixed together. So this is the eyeshadow section and this is the blush section. Yeah, decluttering that. From Chic Glam, Spring It On palette. A random palette from Zoeva. I think this is the only one I didn't sell at the time. I used to love this palette so much, especially this red. Look at the deep. Yeah, I used to love this palette, but it's gotta go. This Cosmetic Opal palette, not my favorite, but I'm keeping it. Viziat Petite Paris Etoile palette. This is the inside. More from Revolution. This is the Carrot palette. Still from Revolution, their After Dark palette. And Spiritual Stars. From Sigma, the Enchanted palette. One of the Unique's palette from the African collection. I can't say what the name is, but this is the inside of the palette. Absolutely gorgeous. Novena mini palette. Can't remember what number is this one. Another one from Uoma Beauty from the Coming to America collection. From Unique, their Egon's palette. More from Glam Shop. This is their Valentinka palette. I'm going to be deporting all of these shades, well, whatever shade I want to keep from this palette. And there's Uoma palette, which is an all shimmer one. This is beautiful and glittery and shimmery. From OPV Beauty in UK here, this Rainbow Splash palette, and I'm gonna get rid of this. I've got better rainbow light palettes than this. From Mcgrath, this is one of our mini palettes. I actually have the two of them. I don't know where the second one is, but yeah, this is one of them. I used to keep this one in my car. It went everywhere with me because it was so easy to use. But I'm gonna keep it because there's some shades here, one or two shades that I don't have. Glamlite Ice Cream palette, made by Michelle Ed in the Cloud palette. Kimchi 2 Coins in the Deserts, I think that's the name. Oh, that's the inside. Such a beautiful, gorgeous, colorful palette. I just wish I can deport it. Plain Makeup by Yolanda Jamrock Rebirth palette. Be Perfect Carnival XL Pro palette. This used to be one of my staples during the week. Oh, absolutely lovely and gorgeous palette. And from Glamlite, their Light Pro palette again. I'm going to be deporting this. Linda Alberg color palette. This is new. I have not even used this at all. From Sample Beauty, the Immensity palette. Another colorful palette. Colourpop Tinekine, Nook Ink, Cherry Sweet, and Pineapple Cake. Another Novena mini palette. BH Royal Affair. I'm going to get rid of this. BH Remix palette. This is absolutely gorgeous. Definitely keeping this one. Nomad Fire and Ice. Sample Beauty Rain palette. Luna Beauty Greek Goddess palette. This is a very beautiful neutral palette. Plain in Makeup by Yolanda Earthly Desires palette. This is one of my latest palettes as well. Another one from Plain in Makeup by Yolanda. This is the Jamrock Pastel palette. Absolutely beautiful palette. Gorgeous pastel palette. The best palettes really that I have used or seen. From Plain in Makeup by Yolanda again. This is the Serenity palette, the collaboration with Bricks Beauty, and this is the gorgeousness of the inside of this palette. And also from Pimbi, the Relentless palette. These three shades, absolutely beautiful. And the mattes in this palette, they are so unique, they are deep, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't think I will ever declutter this palette. Such a beautiful palette. From Line Crime, the Chrome palette. Beauty Bay Book of Magic palette. BH 90s Remix palette. Juvia's Blushed Rose. Light Miracle palette. Decluttering this. BH BFF Alundra and Elsie palette. Again, this is new. I haven't used this palette. Keeping it. Glamlite Donuts palette. I love this palette, and if I ever get rid of it, I'll be deporting the shades. But for now, I'm keeping it. Color Drain Power palette. Glamlite Burger palette. Glamlite Pizza palette on its way to being deported. And Beauty Bay Fiery palette, Fiery 2.0. This palette is colorful. It's mostly got reds and pink. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. Lorax Intergalactic palette. I'm not sure if I've shown you this, but this is the BH Cosmetics Aquamarine palette, the Monday released in March. Revolution Courage palette. Decluttering this. The only palette I have from Dominic Cosmetics, and it's the Celestial Stone palette. I am keeping this. I have not used it enough as I should, and I'm going to give it another chance. Nabla Cosmetics Secret palette. Super Beauty Hyper Color palette. Yeah. And from Sample Beauty again, the Prodigy palette. From Odin's Eye Cosmetics, the Fraser Saga palette. This is a two-sided palette. So this is one of the sides, and this is the second side. The Alva palette. From Juvia's Place, the Nomad palette. Colourpop On It palette. Lilac You A Lot palette, and I think I have moved some of the shades around on this one as well. Isabel Cosmetics Break the Rules palette. BH Cosmetics Absinthe palette. Gorgeous. Too Faced, I think it was one of their Christmas collections. Peppermint Mocha palette. This is a very old one and it's getting decluttered. Same for this, Nubian by Juvia's. This is a very old palette. Look at this. Minging is really dirty. I've had it for a long time. Yeah, this is green. And the Afrique palette, which I more or less remove one shade here. I think I'm just gonna grab rid of this. I'm not gonna bother depositing anything. From Be Perfect Cosmetics, this is their Carnival 3 palette, Love Tahiti. And this is fairly new. I think I got it around, was it Black Friday, I want to say. So this is fairly new in my collection. I can't wait to dig into this, so definitely keeping this. From Yolando, Jamrock Universal palette. And Lorac Cosmetic Artistry Book palette. I don't even know where I got this palette, but yeah, this is from Lorac. Okay, we're nearly done. From BH Cosmetic Amethyst palette, the one that came in February. Emerald, Periods, Pale, and Citrine. And then we have the Looking Like a Snack palette, Low-Key Love You, Passion in Paris palette, Lost in Los Angeles, Party in Puerto Rico, and the Mimosa palette. And then we also have this very old Take Me to Brazil palette, which I'm going to be decluttering. From Vizia, this is the Petite Pro 5 palette. Another one of my Milani palettes. And this is a green tone one. Both were bought from TJ Maxx, so this is another Milani palette. Colourpop In a Trance is Beauty Scarlet Dusk. I think this is one that came with the mirror broken. It was delivered to me with the mirror broken, so I've been kind of scared to use it really. And it's the Scarlet Dusk palette. She Glam Petal Power palette. Another palette from Nomad. This is Lago di Como, and this is inside of the palette. And one of my absolute favorites from Bonnie Cosmetics is the Blends palette. And then my new favorite palette, the Surge palette. Absolutely beautiful palette. So gorgeous. Carnival palette from Clarity Cosmetics. I think I'm eventually gonna depot the whole of this palette, if I'm being honest. Most likely won't be keeping the matte shade, but I'll be keeping every of the metallic shades. And then the final palette from Be Perfect Cosmetics. This is the Carnival Antidote palette. This is also a very beautiful palette, and I also like the variety of color story in this palette. Yeah, but this is the Antidote palette. A self-made palette from England, so I put all these colors together myself. But this palette and everything is from them. I just picked them, just like Little Cosmetics. I picked the shade I wanted in the palette, but this is from England. Fairly new from Urban Decay is the Urban Decay Stoned palette. I think I've used this palette once. Yeah, definitely staying. From Kimchi, the Juicy Velvet palette. This is new. I haven't used this at all. From MAC, another one that I have not used. I think I got this last year Black Friday, not 2021, 2020 Black Friday, and I have not dipped into this palette once. Very shameful. From Revolution Beauty, We Are Love palette, She Glam Peach Pretty palette, Too Faced Eggnog palette, another very old one. Gotta go. Playing the Makeup by Yolando Gaseous Greens palette. This is the inside. This is one of my favorites in this series because it has no glitter in it. Instead it has this gorgeous dual chrome topper. And then from Colourpop, just my Luck palette. I can't remember, I think I might have changed 1 or 2 shades from this as well, but mostly I love most of the shades, so yeah, I'm gonna keep this possibly for another 6 months. Oh my, a very old one from Colourpop, Elements of Surprise. Yeah, I think it's time to let this one go. Yeah, definitely gotta go. Beds of Paradise palette. I have a feeling I might have moved this one around as well. I don't think this was what was in it, but whatever the case, I'm getting rid of this. It's all neutral. I've got better neutrals than this. And then from Shroud Cosmetics is the Arcana palette, which I lusted over for a long time, and I haven't used this palette. I think I swatched it, but I haven't actually put it on my eyes. I really lusted after this palette for a long time. Yeah, but this is the Arcana palette from Shroud Cosmetics. Okay, I think that's all of my palette. I don't know how long I've been filming for or how long this video is gonna be for. I don't know how many palettes I've decluttered. I'll possibly put it on the screen when I count afterwards, because I wasn't counting, but yeah. And I also don't know how many palettes I have in my collection on purpose, really, because I think it'll be sad for me to know. But I suppose when I'm putting them back, I would have to count them. So I will put on the screen how many palettes I had in the first place and how many palettes I decluttered and what I'm left with. Yeah, it was a lot of palettes, and I think lessons learned, honestly, serious lessons learned, to think twice before picking up a palette, to kind of look at what I already have. And this kind of helped me actually. This declutter and looking at all the palettes I have has helped me. So I know what I have now in terms of color stories, so I'm not going to make the same mistake again in future in just getting the same of the same, in getting like, you know, same old thing. So unless a palette is unique to my collection or some particular reason, I am not going to be buying it. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for watching this video. I want to thank you for sticking with it. I really appreciate you. Alright guys, that is the end of my collection and my declutter video. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing my collection, and I hope you like the way in which I showed you my collection. If you have enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I'll see you.